everyone. Welcome. Just before we get started, I wanted to mention that we do have a Kundalini activation session that is coming up on August 22nd. I believe it's at noon Pacific time. If you're interested in joining, there'll be more information on the website under the courses tab at athenaintruth.com. We also have in our member Q&A, our next live channeling will be August 21st. That's, I believe, 3:30 Pacific time. So if you're interested in that, if you're already a member, you can email questions. If you're not a member, you can go to the website and find out how to become a member. And then also there are some other options of free and paid plans at athenauniverse.com, and you can go there and check out what's available there as well. So welcome again. Today, Robin and I are going to talk about life reviews. Hi, Robin.
Hi, Heidi.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Good. All right, so we're going to ask Athena to come in and kick us off with life reviews. So can you explain to listeners what exactly a life review is?
Yes. When a human ends their lifetime, and when we say end, notice we didn't say die, because they are just transitioning back into the oneness is what is occurring. So when a human leaves the individualistic expression that they are now a part of, you will re-emerge back in with the source aspect of yourself, or the oneness, the one thing that has created all things. And from this perspective, you will view yourself as an individual spark of that divine in the experience that you just came out of. It is very important for a human to understand that with the assistance of the divine or the oneness, that they will actually be able to observe themselves in the way that they themselves felt in their experience, with unconditional love and acceptance, no judgment or condemnation, as one might have thought. And then there would also be the ability through that source aspect of themselves that they could actually view all of those that they interacted with in the way that they felt. Because of the experience that they had with them. And so there is a little bit of an awareness. There is a little bit of a realization, let's use that, when they begin to feel their experience from another's point of view rather than just their own. Is there another direction, Heidi, that you would like us to continue in? We know sometimes we get ahead of some of the questions that we have given that are in regard to this situation. Would you like to continue?
Sure. Yeah. So I think you were heading in the direction of my next question, which is how is the life review something of value to us or necessary for our expansion?
So when a human goes through that life review, they are actually observing themselves in the way that they felt in their experience, why they chose to feel the way that they do, why they governed themselves the way that they did. And then what they get that they may not have gotten while they were living the life is the very truthful and knowingness or understanding of how others were affected by them, either positively or negatively. And so there is some sense, a reopening of that consciousness, because it is an individual spark of the divine. It is connected, of course, to the divine, but there is an individual you, or one that expresses over and over again in many different forms and many different lifetimes. And so this information, in order for the being, you as the individual spark that you are, to actually be able to receive that data, there is a little bit of an opening of that consciousness. So therefore an absorption of what comes from these ones that have been in experience with you. We wouldn't say that it is really like you are judging or you are condemning, but you are very much able to feel or perceive through knowingness and feelings exactly how others received you in what it is that you exchanged with them in the life that you were in. So in other words, you're going to get an experience that feels like your own, that is actually coupling with those that you have been in experience with. So there'll be no doubt as to the impression that you left on them that you may not have brought with you if you had not otherwise had that life review, you see.
Okay. So are there ever exceptions? Like if someone has evolved themselves to the point where they're extremely connected to their high self and they live a life that maybe was beneficial to all that was involved with them, is it necessary for them to have this life review, or are there exceptions for some?
Yeah. Well, there are some, we are glad that this question has been posed because there are some that will very much need the life review, but do not actually allow it or move to having it because maybe they are in a little bit of denial or they left the plane in a negative state or one that was not able to allow some things to be felt or understood about oneself. It is more of what we would call a holding period. Eventually, the life review will come, but oftentimes it has to come when the being is ready to accept that which it has experienced in this open, non-judgmental, and loving and compassionate way. Yeah, when a human leaves the plane, and perhaps it was a very disturbing lifetime, and maybe they even committed acts that were of a high level of disturbance, let's just say that, they could go into a holding period or an adjustment period where they would actually have to decompress or release some of what was held in order to be able to have that observation of themselves and really derive the value or the meaning from it. This is one of the situations that could occur. And then in regard to what else you mentioned about someone perhaps living a life where they never did anything wrong, yeah, we would tell you that there are always thoughts or feelings that are being expressed, even from those that are not acting on them, that are privy to the divinity part of those that have had experiences. Everything is received from you. Nothing is hidden. It doesn't really matter whether you act on it or not. You have deposited what you have felt in the realms, let's just say that. And so there are always things in the way that you thought and the way that you felt that would be available to you in the review of yourself, even if you had lived what you called a pretty good life or one that maybe didn't reveal a lot of negativity. Yeah.
Okay, so just so we're clear, you are saying then that it would be the choice of that soul, whether or not they were ready and willing to receive a life review, like they could postpone it or not do it. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
there are times when a human is not ready or not willing to want to take that type of a in-depth look at oneself. You probably have noticed people like this even in their everyday lives. Yeah, there are some that are very open to receiving information about themselves that could benefit them, and then there are those that are very closed to it, that are in a defensive mode. And this would be how we would describe. Many think that when you leave the plane, that there is what you would call no negativity or no feelings that would be adverse or something that you would deem as negativity. And we would tell you that the divinity aspect of you or the soul aspect of you, we would say that that is true. But the individual spark of you, the part of you that goes out and re-experiences over and over again, actually occupies a portion of your consciousness, which is maintained or kept for itself for re-experience. And those are the aspects or the parts of the oneness or the separated consciousness that are not always able and willing to accept the teaching that would actually advance them or move them forward in their experience.
Okay, so if you are one then that has a life review and you get this clarity and understanding from seeing how your actions or thoughts affected others, what do you then do with that information? Do you plan to use that to pre-pave your next life, working on those issues that you saw, or what do you do with that information?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's why it is so vital for a human to realize the value in a life review, because you not only have your perspective, but you have the perspective of many that you were in interaction with. And that perspective, when received by you, expands your consciousness to now contain those things that others experienced as though you yourself had experienced them alongside of them. Many times when a human is in denial, or not recognizing their impact or the weight, let's use that, of the or the consequences of what they have offered to others in their life experience. They don't really have the teaching or the learning. When that emotive value is received as though it is their own, it actually becomes their own. And so they can start to move forward in planning lifetimes that will actually bring up circumstances or situations where perhaps the view that they had of themselves in that life review was not one that they were really happy with or one that they wanted to repeat. Now they have that information actually added to their energy field or to themselves. And so that when they go on to plan their lives, they are using all of the data of those that they interacted with and the data that they themselves acted with, and they are able to create from there a better life experience that would perfect them much better than if they did not have that information.
Okay. So when we are reemerged into oneness, and I'm assuming we're speaking in a life review because we're reemerged into the oneness, but we're looking at that particular soul's experience. How are we viewed or perceived by the oneness?
Mhm. There is a part of your consciousness, a major part of it, we would say, that is actually viewing the individual spark, so that you are part of the one thing, or the magnificence of the universe. You are able to assist that individuated or piece or spark that has veered off from the oneness, yeah, and expressed itself individually as you, and others are doing the same, by the way. So you are able to view that part of yourself. But what we tried to give you the understanding of is that little bit of consciousness, or that separated piece of you that has re-experienced itself over and over again, is a consciousness that is held for experience. It's still being viewed by itself, yeah. And so when you are re-emerged, you have the understanding both of you as an individual spark, but you also have the understanding of you as a vast soul or being that is part of this massive oneness. And therefore, you can experience yourself as all things. You become the one thing. You can experience yourself as a bee, as a tree, as a rock, as another being. And that's actually what you are doing when that individual spark reunites with the one thing. You are able to provide the opportunity for it to not only know itself, but to know the ones that it interacted with on a personal level in the way that they felt. And so the oneness aspect of you is the God source, or the thing that has omnipresence. It is able to be all places at all times, and able to experience all things at all times. And that would include the parts of itself that have been out in experience that then reunite with it. Those things are viewed through the eyes of Source, and provide the opportunity for the individual pieces of consciousness that have been separated out to expand the whole. That's what they are actually doing. And so it is able to provide that ability to observe itself and continue to expand itself in what it observes, and not only in that individual aspect, but in all the aspects of the other ones that you have been in interaction with, you see. Does that make it clear to you, Heidi?
Yes, yes, it does.
Mhm.
So are we capable then in our human form of having ourselves at a level where we could sort of do a life review and be privy to what you just mentioned, being able to be a bee or a tree or a rock, and feel these other people and how we're affecting them while we're in human form? Are we capable of a life review while still living?
Yeah. Uh, there are people through the use of hallucinogenics, and sometimes through altered states of consciousness with breath work and different modalities that one uses to move their consciousness to a higher level of perception. But as you maintain a level of third dimensional reality, you would not observe that or recognize that. When a human has a near-death experience, which many of those report the reuniting or the understanding of oneness, they actually feel themselves in this pool or this wonderful place of where oneness exists, and they recognize that everything that they are wanting to travel to or to experience, that they are there instantly in the moment that they ponder it or think about it. Yeah. And so it is to make as clear understanding as we can, because it is difficult to put this into words that a human can really grasp, is that you do have the ability to re-emerge with the oneness when you are in an altered state. And so that could mean that you are still human, but you have altered your state of consciousness to one of a level of where that information can be obtained. And as we said, it could come through a hallucinogenic, which actually drops the guard or the gateway a little bit, so that a human can actually experience himself in a higher level of consciousness temporarily while they are in use of that hallucinogenic. And so some have done that. And the other way would be through a near-death experience where a human actually leaves the body that way and therefore is able to experience themselves as an expansive being that has reunited itself in the oneness. But remember that the oneness also has awareness of itself in all of its other expressions that it is presently engaged in. And that would include you, the spark of you that you call the human in this incarnation, and you might call it something else somewhere else. Yeah. And so as it observes itself, say as Robin, perhaps the oneness, as she emerges back in as Robin to the oneness, and then she is able to view that portion of her consciousness that experienced itself as Robin, and then she is brought through her experience in the review of it, able to feel all those that interacted with her who are also separate little pieces of the consciousness that is of the oneness. Yeah. And then to actually bring that awareness into the spark that is her, so that when she goes out to re-express in her next incarnation, she would have all of the data in the way that she affected herself and the world, and then move from there in the planning of a lifetime that would reveal yet more expansion to her as an individual spark of the whole, you see.
Okay. So I just want to, it correlates well to this topic, but I just want to slide over. A number of years ago, I had a session with a lady. It was called a pre-birth planning session. And it kind of discussed me and my planning of the next incarnation. And some of the things that were mentioned are, I suppose key players that maybe we're going to be in that experience, how the co-creation of that would be, what sorts of things you were working on. Is there anything you could share? I mean, to me, I felt like it definitely made a lot of sense and had a lot of merit, what this person shared with me. But do we do these types of situations where we have a pre-birth plan and we are figuring out who those key players and our key things we're going to work on are actually going to be what's part of our next incarnation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, when a human is deciding to incarnate, they are going to look at any past lives that they had, any repeat patterning, any repeat situations or circumstances with the soul group that they have been affiliated with over and over again. So all of those things are going to come into consideration when they in fact decide to incarnate again. So the life review, as what we are talking about today, provides them with an in-depth emotive value of not only what they experienced, but what others experienced in their experience with them. And that is what is the most impacting or important feature of a life review, is that you really get the perspective of what mattered or what affected others in their experience with you. And so once that data is then added to the spark of you, then the pre-birth plan would contain something that it would not otherwise contain. And so therefore it can go forward in selecting those from the soul group that would perhaps reveal the best interactions for them to grow spiritually and emotionally in their upcoming incarnations. And so yes, we would tell you that there are many planning stages. There's the planning stage that you are presently in. As you live the life that you are in right now, you are projecting out emotions and feelings and thoughts personally, and how you feel in your experience, that are accumulating in the energy centers and that are going with you when you leave the body that you are in. Then you have the life review, and you are given privy to the other experiences that others have had with you in the way that they felt about it. And so now you add this to the wheels of your life, to the chakras or energy centers, and this becomes contained within you. And then you decide that you're going to incarnate. And so now you have all of this data that is accumulated in your past lives, in your present life, in your life review from others that have experienced with you. You're really getting a clear picture of your expression individually, how it felt, not only for you, but all those that you interacted with, and all that you have been with in the past. You have a large map or platform to draw from, and then decide what is the best way to do that, who are the best players that you will enter into the experience with, to get the learning and the expansion that you really intended to.
Mhm. And I know when I ask this question, you in non-physical are going to say, oh, that's not an issue to us. But us humans who look at time lineal, oh, I can't even speak, lineally, we tend to think of things coming in an order. So is there ever a situation where maybe you're in this situation, planning your life, and you're overwhelmed by the number of things you want to work on, and you're having a difficult time choosing, what would be best to do in this life? How does that shake out? Is there ever any confusion on which way you should go?
Yeah. Well, humans do refer to time as being linear, following a beginning and an end. But really, what's occurring now in the rapid expansion of the consciousness of the world, or the increase in the vibration of the planet, humans are beginning to bring in future timelines. You can hop to a past timeline. Let's talk about that for a moment, because it's kind of interesting that a human can start recalling something that perhaps happened 25 years ago that hurt them, and immediately be brought to tears. And they might surmise that they were having a feeling that made them emotional about the past. But actually, what really happened is you reverted, you left the present time that you are in, and you entered into that time period. That's why it felt so real in the way that it felt to you, because it was real. Yeah. Because that time, or that period in time, actually exists. And so every time that you think about a time that you lost money, a time that you lost a child, lost a partner, you actually travel back in time to that place in time and start creating from there. You activate that energy, and then you have the possibility of creating those experiences over again, because you have left the present moment, you see. And the same thing goes when you talk about future, and future doesn't really exist, other than the probabilities that are produced by the way that you're picking and choosing in your present moment. If you get up every day and think that you're married to a cheating scoundrel, chances are you're going to run into that in what you would call the future. But we would say that you're jumping to a timeline that you've already created that exists. That's what's actually happening. Yeah. And so there's nothing that you ponder, there's nothing that you remain focused on that isn't getting created and being expressed in another level of consciousness. And so you have to be careful, don't you, a little bit about what it is that you decide to harmlessly think about, because everything is creation. Everything is being created in the moment that you think about it. And that thing that you call past, present, and future doesn't exist. What exists are periods of creation, or thoughts, or probabilities that you have put out into the universe that have actually, at some level of consciousness, are existing. And then you are traveling to them, you see.
Okay.
It's how people find themselves sometimes. They can be happy with that. Sometimes there could be such a desire. Let's use Robin for an example, to have more confidence, and then find herself jumping into a timeline where we existed, where confidence actually was. It isn't that she became confident, it's that confidence was created in the moment that she preferred to have it, but she had not allowed herself to experience that preference. Yeah. And what we want humans to understand is that everything, hear that, everything is being created in the moment that it is thought about. And so give up the idea about waiting for something or going back to something, and understand that something exists in the moment that you ponder it or think about it. And then you have the option at any time to go to that place in time, or that's what you call it. Yeah. But it is something that has already been created. And when you go to, you jump a timeline, they call it sometimes, when you go forward in time to perhaps a elevated level of yourself in the way that you perceived or wished that you were, you can actually jump ahead, find yourself very successful, and then go on creating right from there. You don't have to jump back into the old timeline where that didn't exist.
Okay. So I think we've discussed before, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there are souls that choose to no longer incarnate, to stay in non-physical. does the life plan review process, if they've had a really excellent review and they feel really good about the progress they made, does that weigh into them deciding that they don't want to do another incarnation?
You have total control over you, whether you prefer to re-experience something or not. Yeah, it is not mandatory. There is nothing that is not a creation or agreed to. So that would be by the determination of the soul. The one thing that we would like to bring up that we were just talking about that we think is an important point is to understand that a human has the ability in this moment right now to recognize that everything that you have ever preferred exists. Let that sink in for a moment. You think about that, Heidi.
Mhm.
Everything that I have ever preferred exists right now. And that all you need to do to go to that is to believe in that, is to start perceiving that as much as what you believe in now. You believe so easily now. We're not saying you personally, all of you, in the reality form that you are being shown, that you have already brought into form. But that form only exists because you believed in it and you perceived it and you traveled there to it. That's what happened. You went to it in the way that you felt. And we're challenging all of you right now to go to that form that you want to feel because it exists. The preference exists. And so if you could recognize the reality of what you have not yet brought into form by just going to it, knowing it's there, you could suck that timeline right now, right into your reality and live in something that you never thought possible very quickly.
Okay. And final question, if we are very, you said that the life review is something we can choose to do or not do. If we are very consciously creating expansion in our human state, can we as humans, before we leave this plane, say, I want to do this life review. It's going to be for benefit for me. It's going to assist in my growth and expansion. So when I pass, I want to allow this to occur. Can we create that by asking for it as humans?
Absolutely. You are never not a creator. Yes. And you have the ability, especially when you are transitioning, to observe yourself in the way that you are going through that process, and therefore make it a much smoother one, a less fearful one, an easier one. Yeah. You have the ability to move in your experience in a direction in the way that you feel and actually create that for yourself. We would tell you that far too many humans transition without the understanding that it does matter. How you feel when you leave the plane does create an experience for you that you have to go through or transcend. Let's just use that term. And so it is a very good idea. And we have told Robin this before. She used to have a great fear of dying. Yeah. And she's not quite sure if she got something, if she wouldn't be afraid right now. She hasn't been tested that way yet. Yeah. But it is a good idea for a human to contemplate the idea that they will transition from the form that they are in and condition themselves to be in a state of gratitude, to be in a state of appreciation for life lived and for those that they have lived it with, and to try to hold themselves as much in alignment to their source as they can, because this will definitely be something that will be revealed to them as they make the transition over. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. We hope you've all enjoyed and learned something from today's session. We'll see you all next time.
Good day.